Janelle Pritchard, welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, this is going to be a good chat. Look, we originally met, I think, while you were working for Enable Broadband. You were like the head of marketing there. And I remember we started having a talk and I was just blown away. Like, you have a knowledge of marketing and it was really good to actually deal with someone who understood marketing. So I wanted to get you on because now, what you're doing now, head of operations and management at Harcourt's Homewood. So you've got a depth of knowledge, which I think my audience is really going to enjoy. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, so let's kick off, because you have a varied background, and I know just from talking, you were doing hospitality management as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for just a second. Where did you get started in your journey to getting involved in marketing?
I guess, we can go all the way back. I mean, I always wanted to be a hotelier ever since I was a little girl. Yeah. That was what I wanted to be in life. So when I left school, I went and studied hospitality management, and I did that for 3 years. But I always, even from a young age, wanted to always work with the best. If I was going to deliver plates to a table, I wanted to deliver the best plates in the best restaurant.
Oh, wow.
So I guess
where do you think that came from?
I don't know.
And also, why choose hospitality at a young age?
I think, my father worked for Air New Zealand. We were really fortunate to travel a lot, and so I got this real love for hospitality and tourism. True. So that's where that came from.
Yeah.
So I embarked on that career, which took me all over New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah. So did you end up doing the diploma?
Yes, the 3 year.
Yeah, 3 years, nice. Yeah. So do you want to know a secret? I did that as well.
But did you make it through?
No, I did the 751 the first year, and then I was sort of, hey, you should probably do the hospitality management the 3 years. And I was seriously, after 2 years of Polytech, I couldn't do anymore. And I kind of realised I like the other side of the bar versus that side of the bar.
I had a few classmates like that.
Yeah. So hey, well done. So you get the diploma and it takes you all over. Were you starting to work in hotels?
So I was working for IHG Hotels. So I had a bit of an internship, which was fabulous. So I got to work in every area of the hotel, and I did that in New Zealand and Australia.
Did you find a favourite part, inside the hotels?
It was always in food and beverage.
Yeah?
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
That was my little passion spot.
Yeah. And you said you wanted to work for the best. So what was that driven out of? Is that driven out of your experience with travelling with your parents?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's probably a bit of a theme throughout my career, is I've always gone to work for companies which have great products and services that I can be really proud of, and that, ultimately it does make your life a lot easier, especially in marketing, if those products are leading in their field.
Yeah. So what are some of the companies that you started working for?
So obviously I worked with IHG Hotels for about 10 years, and then really the lure of more regular hours, because hospitality isn't that glamorous, drew me into working for VBase, which is now Venues Otatahi. So I took up a role there as a business development manager.
Yep.
And that company changed hugely over the 10, I had another 10 years there. Where I worked my way up into the sales and marketing manager position. So I led an awesome team of sales and marketing professionals. And look, that was still, to this day, and I tell this to my boss now, that was still the best job of my life.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, you got to deliver these incredible events, you know, and you were really selling and marketing something that all people took away from that was an experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't like selling a pair of shoes or anything. They literally were taking away an experience.
Yeah.
And so we were always working hard to bring the best experiences to the city, and then obviously making sure that we delivered on that when people were coming to our venues.
Because selling an experience is totally different than selling something that you can touch and is very tangible, right?
Absolutely.
You've got to kind of rely on a different skill set. And is that something that you saw a challenge, you really like to do?
I love that. And that's all, I was in that experience business, and that's all I'd ever done, which probably then led me to realise, firstly I realised once I got into that role, I actually really loved marketing, and I probably had a little bit of a knack for it. And then I felt like, hang on, I felt like a little bit of an imposter, and I didn't have the credentials, because obviously I didn't study marketing.
Yeah.
So it was actually it was brutal, but I had to be brutal, and I left that job to go and do my degree in business management and marketing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was one of those things, even though, I've got that piece of paper, and look, has it really helped me get a job today? Probably not. But for me, it was something I had to do. So I always felt like I had the credentials to do the role.
Nice. So you went to university at an older age, right? How was that? Obviously that's, that's a challenge in itself. A lot of people would go, oh, that's too hard. I don't want to do
No,
that.
it was, look, I had a little preschooler as well.
Awesome.
And look, the best thing about that was I actually inspired a few of my other older friends to go back and study
That's
as
cool.
well. One's gone on to do the MBA. They were like, if you can do it with little children, then we can do it. So that was awesome. And look, it was really tough when I was doing it. I don't think I'd do it again. But I've done it now. And I actually also was very fortunate at that time. That's where we met. To pick up, it was a part-time, started off as a part-time management role at Enable.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about a telco. I'd only ever worked in events and hospitality. I mean, I thought fibre broadband came out of a satellite in the sky.
Oh, probably people still do.
Yeah, so it goes to show you, I guess, obviously I learned a lot more about fibre broadband, but you can really go on to apply your skills in any field.
Yeah. So your degree, what did that teach you? Like, what were you really like? Because were you learning? Did you think you were learning marketing, like you were going to university?
I think I realised a lot of it you just already knew, but you didn't have
paper?
You didn't have the correct name for that. And at the same time I was learning so much on that job. At Enable, I worked with some incredibly smart people, so they taught me a lot along the way. And we always worked with our partners, the likes of Digital Influence, Harvey Cameron, external agencies, Research First, and from that, I think it was just a combination of doing that and doing the learning at the same time helped me.
Yeah, and like obviously graduating, that's pretty cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, because like we've got people that have just recently graduated that work here, and it's a very proud moment for them, right? And I think it's the more the effort that you put into the studying and the time frames and everything that comes with it, right? It is interesting though. Like I've got a new girl started recently and she's learnt more in 4 weeks probably than she's learnt, and
exactly.
more practical stuff, more stuff that's more, I guess, focused in that digital space. So, you do learn, I guess, but you still have to do that journey, right? Like, it's a bit of a talking point around the office. I'm the only one without a degree.
Hey, it's not too late. You can come and do it. Let us be your inspiration.
There it is. Challenge not accepted. But well done on doing that, because I think it's a confidence thing, and obviously it gave you more confidence to have that stepping stone to get into things. I really like what you said though, when you were working at V-Base and selling an experience. I think that's something I've noticed with you. You're very good at, right? And you look to create, even with some of the stuff that you're doing now with Harcourts and maybe some of the internal selling you're doing, you look to create experiences for the people that work there, and I've seen some of the stuff coming out. Is that, do you think that's part of your, like, I think everyone has a unique gift and is that something that you've got? Like,
I reckon that could be my secret herbs and spices. I think it is just always bringing it back to your own experience as the customer, or from things that you've heard your family and friends tell you about. And I can relay that from all of the jobs that I've been in. Everyone's experienced all of those companies. And so I'm always trying to put myself in their shoes. So when it comes to, like, if we're doing something around the client experience, or we're streamlining a process, or we're creating a piece of marketing, it's just really thinking about what I've heard and what I've experienced. And just trying to hit all those pain points and really resonate with who the audience is. Yeah.
What are some of the things you go to look at first? Like do you start talking to people about things, or you just...
People are normally pretty forthcoming. When you tell them where you work, it doesn't take, especially look around that fibre broadband rollout, there was a lot of people, it wasn't always easy to get broadband in your home. And that was a really challenging thing to market, because we actually were a wholesaler and we couldn't sell it. So all you can do is just build brand awareness and push them to a retailer. So it was a really, really challenging. I probably learned the most in that role, in particular in marketing, than any other position. People were really forthcoming when you just ask the right questions, and then you use this, and this is great stuff to use, especially when you're trying to pitch an idea to a board or to a management team or to your CEO, you pull on those experiences, and they're pretty hard to argue with.
Especially if you got what people really want, right? And you package that around. What are some of the campaigns that you can think of straight away that were fun to do? And
I can think of some that I couldn't quite get over the line.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look, I think we've done. Look, there's been so many. I think when I was at V-Base, we did a great repositioning around make life more eventful. And so that was all around like, come and experience our venues and come and just make your life more eventful. And then that resonated really well internally because all we did is we just put a "we" on the front of it. We make life more eventful.
True.
And it was just, and that was just, and there was so many legs to that because things like, if we're going to be making life more eventful, and this is what we're saying we're doing, we need to show we're doing it. So it's little things that we did that, rolled out of our team was, in the bathrooms, making sure, we had decals going, make sure you get a selfie spot here. When we'd have the balls, handing out little slippers as people left, putting ourselves in their experience when they come in. What are the things you remember when, you go to the bathrooms or when you do go to leave or when you arrive? So I guess that was, we pushed that whole positioning out and then we really brought it to life.
Yeah.
I had it, working with Harvey Cameron, we had a great campaign where around Generation F or Gen F. So it's bringing like this whole new generation moving into fibre. And look, that was a standout campaign because we used kids, as tricky as they are. But we actually ran a great little talent
I remember that.
quest essentially to hire our talent. We got these gorgeous 2-week kids.
They were outstanding.
They were so great. They had never done anything like that before.
And
that Gen F campaign resonated with so many people. And we were right in that middle of that sort of adoption curve. So it was, we were trying to climb to get to 100,000 connections and we plastered them all over the city.
Yeah, I do remember that.
That's good. It worked.
And I think, like that whole structure of putting campaigns together, something you just said there, you thought about the experience. I always look at things when it comes to marketing like a before, during and after. What happens before good marketing, what happens during and what happens after. If you break that whole experience down, like the formals you were giving away slippers and stuff like that. It's that, okay, what can we leave them with? That leaves that impression, that after experience. And I think a lot of businesses, they forget to break that, but they probably don't understand breaking marketing down. What happens beforehand? Like what does a wow experience look like beforehand? What is it? It's easy to do it. Well, easy to think about it during.
Yes.
Because you're in there, right?
Yes.
And you're okay, but what about after as well? Before and after, I think it's an area that's kind of forgotten.
I agree.
Yeah. So V-Base though, so that's events. So like concerts and that type of stuff.
Concerts, rugby, conventions, trade shows, galas.
Nice.
Everything.
So really, they really are experiences.
Right? We would deliver around 1,500 events a year. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Nice. Hey, and also you also worked you've obviously done a bit of work with property developers and you've done a bit of work with other hospo events as well, hospo companies. So you work with some of the biggest, in Christchurch probably as well.
Yeah, always work for the best, never settle for anything less.
Yeah. So it's not a bad takeaway, right?
It definitely makes, if you, but you can be picky, I think, around where you go. It certainly makes life a little bit easier when you're working with a great product or portfolio. That the role prior to Homewood with the Oxford Group, stand-up venues, some of the most successful venues in the South Island, some in New Zealand, and trying to creating great experiences. There's plenty of other bars and restaurants that we're competing with. We're all selling the same products. But again, it was like, what can we do? How is our experience different?
Yeah. How can we stand out? And how can we make a standout product even more standout, right? And it's a lot easier to get something to 110 if you're dealing with 100, right, versus dealing with a 60 or a 70. Always work with the best. Like, I love that. Like that's a really good takeaway. And is that where did you get that from? Like that's obviously a belief that you've created and a standard that you've set, right? Like is that something that you like? It's a kind of it is a mindset, right? And I love talking about mindset on this podcast. Is where did that come from?
I don't know. Yep. I think it's just, I don't know if it's from my own experiences. I think, I started off with some really good companies, from a young age. I'm working with AHG Hotels, so it's pretty hard to go back from there. Because
they were a good, that was like Park Royal back in the day.
Yes,
yeah.
Crown Plaza.
Yeah, Crown Plaza, totally. So they were the standard, definitely here in Christchurch. And the hotel, that was the hotel to go
hotel.
to. Yeah. And I think anyone who had been in hospitality probably would have wanted to have worked at that hotel. That was the standard. Yeah, so you probably saw from like early on what it was like to work
Yeah,
with the
it's
best.
pretty hard. It's
Yeah.
like if you fly, at the front of the plane, it's pretty hard to go to the back again.
Yeah, I definitely know
I
that.
wouldn't know this, but
No, I flew to Miami recently and flew business class over there, but didn't realize you didn't get a ticket into the American. Like, I
oh
went from the
no.
top of the plane, from the plane to the back of the plane, and it was like 40 degrees. It's unbelievable. First world problems.
Yeah, that sure is.
Yeah. Hey, so okay, that's a pretty interesting grounding. Like you've obviously, what I love about that is you've realised you needed to do a marketing degree. You went and got that the marketing degree, and now you're starting to work at Enable Broadband. You got a part-time job there, and and then where did that evolve? Like into
Well, it quickly became a full-time job
Yeah.
because we had some pretty big targets we wanted to hit. And when you're in that, when you're dealing with a technology product, and there's obviously you're in that you've got your early adopters, and then you start to go into that growth phase. Well, we were right at the top of that curve, so it was a real race to get there,
Yeah.
and it was a real race to get there while we were rolling the product out and we were visible in the streets, because once it was underground, they didn't know about it.
Yes.
And obviously, I wasn't there at COVID, but that also accelerated another big uplift in numbers because, the amount of people then realising that they needed really fast broadband.
Fast broadband.
But trying to convince that to people at the time that were only used to an inferior product it was challenging. So
It's definitely seen like that whole landscape grow though. But it was interesting. I remember when we were helping that it was interesting because Enable was the wholesaler.
yes,
So you could do so much, and then people still had to choose who they were going to go with, and there was a little bit of confusion. How did you guys get around that in the end, or did you just land at that? Yeah,
we had some incredibly smart data analysts that worked in that business, because when you're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into marketing and you've got to show the return on that to the board or to the management team, we had to have some really strong data around it. So what we actually did was really targeted marketing into specific suburbs.
Yep.
We used mosaic segmentation to know exactly what the dominant mosaic group was in each area, so what marketing levers to pull.
Yeah.
So, for certain areas you would have to use addressed mail and maybe certain radio, whereas others we could do billboards, flyers, and a door-to-door team.
Yeah.
So we adapted it, but then what we would see is we'd be measuring the uptake in that area, and then the moment we pulled all the levers for our marketing, there would be like a 10 to 14 day lag, and then we'd see an uplift in orders for that suburb.
Wow.
So it was a great way
Yeah,
to
yeah.
prove that what you were doing was working.
What you're doing is working, because a lot of the times, obviously, taking that to the board level
Yeah.
is very hard, right? Like they're only seeing the now,
Yeah.
and you're trying to paint that picture, right? One thing I think is really key, and it's really key for the listeners of this podcast, is you listen to what Janelle was saying there. They were measuring stuff. They were looking at data, and I think that's, whether you're looking just at your analytic level with your Google Analytics and that sort of stuff, you must be looking at that data. You must be getting some feedback. Is that something that, well, you've just said it, you relied on that, and you really started to use that more and more inside the business to get better decisions?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you could see it became visually really obvious when you could measure what was happening and then see the uplift.
Yeah.
So once we got to that, like it didn't just happen. Once we got to that level of reporting, it didn't matter who they were placing the orders through. We could see an uplift.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and like I've worked in companies since that we don't have that level of technical expertise in house. So you've got to find other ways to prove it.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't need that.
No.
That level, right? But at the same time, you still need to be able to measure and I think Campbell Parker said it best on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. If you really want to manage something, you've got to measure it. And without it, like, you're just guessing. And I think that's even the littlest things you can, always ask, how did you hear about us?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, you heard, SEO. Oh, great. Oh, referral. Brilliant. Like little things like that, just start asking. So, yeah, understated. So, working at Enable Broadband, you've left there, and obviously, do you still, like, you're still wanting to grow your marketing career? Like, is that?
Yeah, so I did, this is where I did, I actually was contracting for a few years, so to some developers, again, something completely different.
Yeah.
But this was in that land development space,
Yep.
and so that was that was again we were in that real building boom. So so we were doing a lot of subdivisions, and then obviously there was a lot involved in that, and I learned again heaps, but probably more on the business side.
Yep.
And then taking those to market, and so I did that for a few years, for a couple of years, but then the lure of hospitality was put in front of me again, and back I went.
Yeah. And but just looking at that subdivision, what did you learn? What were some of the key takeaways there?
Well, again, I probably applied a lot of my learnings from Enable as when you would launch into, when we launched a subdivision, so like the Deco Park was a really big one that we did out in Lincoln. It was, at the start, you kind of had to throw everything at it to figure out what was working. So we threw a whole lot at it in terms of the platforms that we were on and where we were targeting. But it was after like that first couple of months when you can see where that inquiry is coming from or where the sales were coming from. And what we realised was like 90% of it was coming from within the Selwyn district. So that straight away told me, well, hang on, let's pull back on everything kind of from outside that district. Let's do a little bit, but let's really intensify in here. So that's when we really amped up and like the print out there and outdoor media, because we knew that's where our business was coming from. It was people moving within the district.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Like little things that you can learn. Like I always say, small hinges swing big doors. And it's the little things you can learn that just add up to going, you know what? This is where our people are. Let's go where the people are.
Yeah, let's not keep doing the same thing.
Let's not keep doing the same thing. And I think, it was interesting, just had some people in here before and they're looking at doing marketing and they're all these different things they were going to do. And I was like, where's your people? And they were like, well, probably over here. And I was like, yeah, they probably are over here, but let's do a few things because we can't just be thinking we're right. Let the data tell you, but I'm pretty sure those people are going to be over here. It's interesting, so doubling down on where they are, that's so cool. And obviously, sales would have increased from that, right? Like
absolutely.
Acquisition cost goes down, sales go up, and everyone's happy. So that's pretty cool. Once again, another great takeaway there. So back in hospitality though, and like one thing I've learned from hospitality, it's like in marketing hospitality, it's challenging, right? Like you're like. There's so many variables to making hospitality work from a marketing perspective. And look, we've got good at it over the years, but it takes time. What are some of the key learnings that you took away from back in hospitality?
See, I think marketing and hospitality is quite easy compared to what I'm doing now.
Yeah, well, true.
I'd actually used this example with an agent the other day who was wanting to do some lead generation, and I was saying, look, they're like, I don't know where to target and who to target. And I said, it isn't like, I could set up an ad campaign, like in my last role, and go, right, we want to target 21st for this venue. And it was so easy because you just target every 20-year-old within this area, and boom, you just get these leads. And it's just, so that was a really easy, I found that but again, it depends on what products you have. But we had an ideal location for 21st. So that was easy, but it was all, it was really quite interesting. We could never get all 6 venues all completely humming at the same time. You'd always, one would just be needing a little bit more. So you'd go over there, and you could actually, we normally would fix it with marketing. So there would either be there would be something wrong with the experience, or there'd be something wrong with the marketing. But we could pull a few levers and we could get it up again. But you'd take your eye off one and then another one goes. So that's what it was like. We were always sort of, you'd start the day off with one fire and a couple more, but you just could never get them all going completely perfectly at the same time. But it always results. It's always the results. It's looking at the next day at that turnover, and if you see the numbers and would always compare on the year prior, like why did we do less? Why was it? What haven't we done? What did we miss?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to be able to go over across 6 venues as well. Like that gives you a bit of strength and something that you can learn a lot more than say just having one venue where you just, okay, what is going right?
Well, it's certainly challenging because, when they're really diverse, they don't compete with each other either, which is a great thing. So none of our venues competed with each other. But they all had entirely different demographics. So you were always super challenged and always trying to put yourself in that demographic of each venue.
Yeah, how did you challenge yourself with that? Because I think that's one of the hardest things when it comes to marketing a business is to get yourself in to that demographic, right? And especially if you have more than one demographic, right? That's actually like from a brain perspective, the energy it takes to actually get involved in that. How did you handle that?
Well, obviously it was hospitality. We
Yeah.
had to spend a lot of time in the venues partaking.
Yeah, true.
And it is, to me, it's
Yeah.
a lot of that. It's a lot of observing. It's
Yeah.
a lot of being in the space and just noticing the types of people and or the ones that would come up and then not walk in, and then see which venues they would walk into. So
Nice.
a lot of observation was really how we'd. And that's how you figured out who your target was. And it became, and that was when we could be really, really specific when we were trying to market certain venues.
Yeah. So human behaviour, we're looking at human behaviours and why they're doing certain things. Mm-hmm. Nice. And obviously then you had those venues that could, okay, that's for the 21-year-olds, that for the 30-year-olds, and
These are for the tradies or whatever, but you're continually putting on a different hat, thinking about that, working on that for 45 minutes and then on to the next one.
Yeah, nice.
So it's a huge volume of marketing and activity happened for quite a small team.
Yeah.
And it was very there was a lot of that was through COVID as well. So there was a lot of off and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Crazy times. Hey, so now you're obviously involved with Harcourt's Homewood.
Yes.
And you're doing some really cool stuff there. But obviously now you've got a whole bunch of team that you're looking after. So how are you handling all that? Because that's once again now there's another skill set that you have to use, right? So how has that been for you? Like, and what are you learning there?
Well, it is so different because you really have two clients. So you have obviously your vendors, so your sellers and your buyers. So that's obviously our customers. But you also have your agents, and we have nearly 100 agents. But they're all independent contractors. And our job is to provide a really good experience for them as well. And in turn, they provide a great experience for their clients.
Yeah.
So we really have, two sets of clients to work with. So we do, obviously, on the agent side, focus a lot around retention and their experience. And likewise for our sellers and buyers.
Yeah. And as far as marketing, so because we've talked a wee bit about this and how you're helping your agents market, because I think like some of the experience that you're obviously bringing to it is from an outside, which is kind of a traditional way of marketing real estate, right? And you're bringing some other ideas. How do you find, like, firstly, how are they landing, like with people? Because, there's been a very traditional way of marketing real estate, right? So how's that?
Well, this is, this is a cause for debate often in our office because I guess there is, there's still this idea that it's, this belly to belly real estate. So it's still doing, making the calls, having the face to face, and doing it's a contact sport. So making sure you're just regularly in front of people. Yeah. But in saying that, there's some agents, and we've in our teams and in other franchises that getting a lot of success of other forms of marketing as well. So it's a fine balance because you don't want the agents to stop doing that traditional form of sales and rely on lead generation and these other things. So you've got to just strike this balance and not focus on one too hard because they could become dependent on that, and that's not what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously training becomes a big part of that then, right? Like you're training people, training them on obviously the basics first, and then training them on other stuff. Mm-hmm. And what's your role in that? Like obviously, general manager of operations, you obviously a lot of it right now. So what's your day-to-day look like?
Well, really, it's actually quite interesting. So businesses, it's business, right? So there's ups and downs. So generally I can be working, any one time with 3 or 4 particular agents. So they might just be going through a little growth phase, or they might just be ready to take their business to the next level, or they might just be going a little bit of a rut and need a bit of help. So that's the bit that I love because you get in and you really get to know them and really understand what their clients love about them and what they bring to the table, because despite they've all got the same job title, but they all bring something a little bit different. And so I really try and draw that out, and then that's the piece that now we've got our internal product around where we sit with them and create their own brand proposition that's not another cliche, which is just one of my pet hates. And so we create something that they feel really good about and proud about. We give them a little bit of their own assets in terms of branding. Yeah. Obviously, remembering the Harcourt's brand, that's where the strength is. It's the most trusted real estate brand in New Zealand. So we try and we educate them about that's where the trust lies, and you're not bigger than the brand. Yeah. But you're just doing that in a way. Sometimes people have an idea that they maybe have seen from somewhere, and when we drill it right down, look, I had this with an agent the other day. They're like, oh, I need to do that something in my farm area, which is their franchise area, and I think it should have this and this. And I was like, but what do you think they really, not everyone's wanting to sell though. Like, do you not think, what about if you could give them something that they don't already have? So we actually, she was focusing on being an area specialist in this certain location. I said, why don't you give your top 5 greatest tips for, it was in Mirabelle right now, like really think about it.
Yeah.
And actually you're giving them something, and there's a soft sell. But I said, because then rather than just saying, I can give you a free market appraisal or what everyone else is, it was actually give them something first.
Yeah. Yeah, so add value first, right? So add value to them and do it in a way that's not just the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
It's because you just become vanilla, right? And an indifference, like just is like there, right?
Yeah, and it's tricky because they see so many other agents doing this, so it starts to become what they think they have to do, or they think it becomes the norm. So you do have to really challenge them because, to think a little bit differently and to trust us. And we're like, hey, we're marketing professionals. This is put yourself in their shoes. If you're living in this area, what would you love? What would you like to receive?
Yeah.
And so then they start to understand it. So there's a lot of one-on-one dialogue.
Yeah. And do you brainstorm that with them?
Yes.
Like, is that your kind of...
I love doing that. That's probably my favourite part of my job.
Yeah. Because you're good at it, right? You ask better questions and see it from the consumer's perspective or their client's client, right? Like you see it down the track, where they probably just seeing it here and what they need and what they want. You see what the client wants, which is a skill, right? And it's a very, well, I guess there's an interesting part though. So you're helping them, obviously you open their brains and open their minds to doing other things and doing it different ways. How do you then help them with the follow through of that? Because it's great to have an idea, but if you don't implement it.
I learned that really quickly. So I've had to create a few tools around that, so around accountability. And agents love accountability. And people,
so what have you done there?
They like it. It's different for everyone. So you find out what they like. Some it might be like, right, send me a picture, send me a text once you've done that every week. Like, this is what we've agreed to do. I want, send me it. Some we have like a 15-minute whip. So we have they know they have to have done what we've talked about.
Cool.
Nice. And then also because I'm a little bit of an organised person, like I put all of these things now into like a project tracker so we can track where we're going. So especially if we're doing a bit of a like relaunch of an agent or a whole piece around their positioning, we do all of that. So they've got responsibilities and there's things that we do. But I do try and push a lot of it back on them. But there's a lot that myself or our marketing team will facilitate for them as well.
That's awesome, because a lot of times marketing gets like the I guess, where's my leads conversations, right? And like probably one of the best things I ever heard around this was at a conference in America, and the guy, he rephrased what sales and marketing was, and they put him into a growth team. And I thought that was really interesting because sales were coming to marketing going, where's my leads? And then marketing was going, well, why aren't you closing the leads I'm giving you, right?
Yeah.
So they created a growth partnership together, and I thought that was really a good way to phrase it, because if you can't have one without the other, right? You have to actually work together. And sometimes it's really hard when you are working with just salespeople that are just focused on trying to track down that next sale versus doing some things to actually farm those people in and give them value in advance.
Yes.
So the tracking side of thing, once again, you're measuring stuff, right? I think that's a really key. Like you're giving, because there's, as I said, it's great to give people ideas, but if they're not doing anything with it,
I don't like wasting my time or my marketing team's time or their time. So it's going, hey, we've I've given you an hour of my time. We've done this. Right now, let's reconvene in like 30 days or whatever. Like let's see how you're tracking with it, because and not everyone. Some people fall off, and that's the nature of the beast. But I've found that's actually been a little bit of a winning formula.
Well, what do you find, like, because obviously there's, you do have two different types of things happening there. You're actually helping people that are in a bit of a rut, but you're also helping people that are looking to, that are going, right?
Yeah.
So who's the better person to deal with?
Oh, I like both. And do you know what? Like, to be honest, you know, I've had some great successes, and I've seen some people, you know, who are feeling, a lot of it is they lack that ability to self-promote.
Yes.
And they actually, and you've got to draw that out of them, and you've got to give them, and you've got to tell them all the things they're great at.
Yeah.
And that then they have to shout that from the rooftop. So they're not used, no one really likes self-promoting.
No.
So once they start doing that, and then they start seeing the success coming out of it, you do see their confidence lift, which then flows through to all parts of their business.
Yeah.
So I've definitely, with a few of the agents I've worked with, and look, I've only been there a year and a half, I've seen some of them go on leaps and bounds, which is great. And that's not just down to me, that's a whole lot of other things, but we've played a small part of it.
But the key thing there is you've given them confidence. And I think that's your role as a leader. I see it's my role as a leader, and even with the business owners that we work with, is to give them confidence. Confidence to actually take some action in despite of everything else that's going on, right? And I think it's a good thing to do, because I really understand this now, especially in my role, and this is would be the same for you. I tell people, hey, look, you don't have to actually believe in yourself, because I believe in you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key that you're doing.
It's a great message.
You know, you're letting people go, hey, don't worry, I'm in your corner. And I think that's, like, people need that now, right? Because you're right, especially, like, I know working with some agents and stuff in the past, they do need that confidence, because it's not even like you go into the marketplace and the marketplace is probably nicer than their other agents. You know, it's an interesting world that you guys live in. It's very competitive.
Yes.
So it's good that you're standing in there and helping them, give them that confidence. So they don't have to believe in themselves right now, because you believe in them, and then one day they can believe in themselves, and they're away to the races. So probably that the person that's in that rut is an ideal person to work with.
Yes.
Especially if they really, because it's an interesting industry. There are some successful people in that industry, right? But there's a whole bunch of people that probably, that are struggling to make it, and they do need someone to help them, right? So your day then, obviously helping people and looking after the marketing team, I think it's quite unique what you've got there at Harcourt's Homewood. You have a marketing team, but you also have marketing resources. Why do you think that's so important? Like,
I think, like we operate our own marketing studio, and look, I've dealt with a lot of agencies through my time working with these corporate companies, but the level of resource in there is really high. It's at agency level, and so we have a team of 5 in there, and each sort of has their little areas of of that they favour or that they specialise in. Look, a lot of the stuff that they do is producing a lot of the same materials like flyers and proposals, but there's always just so many other little projects that we divvy out amongst the team. But I think that marketing, and knowing that our team have the best marketing, Tony will vouch for that as well. Something that they feel really proud of taking in, and given our franchise area is really nice and condensed, it means that everything is produced out of our head office. It's a 5-minute drive. They can come and pick up and take this quality marketing. They're already a step ahead of the competition. And there's some really nice little points of difference that we do, just so that it gives them more confidence when they go in and do that listing presentation.
And I think speed of implementation is something that I've seen when Tony showed me, and I was like, oh, speed of implementation. You've got a point of difference there, right? You're right, 5 minutes round, you need something, you can create it, boom, you're round, you pick it up, and you're away.
Full commercial print setup. So we
pretty impressive.
Our own magazine. So it is impressive. And look, we have, we turn around these proposals. They always take priority in our business. We produce those, and they're done within 2 hours. So they get prioritised in terms of our workflow.
That is very, very cool. And I think, and look, when you're looking for an edge in the marketplace, they're the sort of things that you need, right? So, interesting point. You've created your own book. I know Tony said it was all his idea, but so what a great idea, right? So I know you're a big part of this, and you're a big driver behind Homes on Homewood. Like, where did that idea come from? Because end of the day, Blue Book was gone.
It was gone, and
and the industry saying we don't need it anymore. We don't need this thing. So why?
Well, everyone will tell you, print's dead, and no one reads. paper, and there's all this negative chat, but we just knew, and we know because we ask our agents how their campaigns are going, how do people find them, how do they get through the open home, and you hear the success stories of all the time of that unconscious buyer who's sitting in a cafe and they read a magazine or they start opening up the press in the home and they see this property and then they go through it. And next minute, they purchase the property. So it's really tapping into those passive unconscious buyers, and and not just pouring all of our, pouring vendors marketing all into these portals for these people that are like with active intent. So we think there's a real place for it. It was obviously the Blue Book had been around for a number of years. It sort of died a bit of a death, but we saw that as an opportunity to actually create our own. And maybe that's why there's been such good buy-in from our team, because it is just our Homewood team in there, and then they they get some good profile out of that as well. But they're all really proud of it, and we're about to put out our 6th edition. We create the whole thing in-house. It does get printed externally, but and we have obviously had those located around our franchise area.
Yeah. So obviously you guys have created your own asset there. That's what I really love about it too, right? Like Homes by Homewood, and you've created your own asset. And then obviously, it's another thing that you can give to as a point of difference.
Yeah, and look, we're in the recruitment game all the time, right? Like recruitment's, in a management position, we are always focusing on recruitment and retention, and it's another little tool that we can offer, because it is also a great listing tool for agents. You pick it up and you can see these agents, see their faces, see a reminder of who's out there doing the business.
Yeah, exactly. And no one else has got one,
No, hopefully not anytime soon either.
Well, people copy success, don't they? So 6th edition, so it comes out monthly, which is cool as well. That's awesome. I think I know the team's very proud of it, and that's another cool thing as well. Like everyone's proud of being in there, and that's something like, because you've created a really good culture. And I know, talked to Tony and had him on the podcast, and obviously, there's good leadership there, but the culture in the business, is pretty. Like people want to come and work for you guys. Where do you think, like, where's that driven from, and where does it come from? Like, why do you think people are want to be part of that?
I think I can only bring it back to when I first started at Homewood, and I think I just had this, after the first meeting, Tony pulled me into this boardroom. I think he was worried. I think I looked a bit shell-shocked.
Yeah.
He's like, "Are you okay?" And I just said, "Is it always like this? Is it always this positive and energetic and upbeat, or is this just a show?" He's like, no, get used to it, it's like this. And without a word of a lie, it is like that. Look, don't get me wrong, there's times when we are in the trenches and we've got, like in any business, but for the majority of the time it's so energetic, it's so positive, we have a lot of laughs, it's all about the people, and it's really hard to describe that culture until you get into it. And then we have agents coming from other businesses, and they it's just the one thing that comes through every single time is the culture here is so different.
Yeah. So what are you doing then? Like, what are some of the little things that you're doing to create a good culture?
Oh, look, we have, every office does a lot in their own space. Look, we really look after our people. We really celebrate our successes. I think real estate's renowned for that, but we really do celebrate our successes and our team members and officers when they do well. We do, like every couple of weeks there's some sort of team building activity or gathering within each office, and then we always, we always find a reason to celebrate something like Cup Week, and we pour a lot of energy. I guess that's where I get to use my event management skills, and we've got an awesome executive assistant. She loves doing events as well, so we pour a lot of energy into creating great events. And people, they are the thing that a lot of people, they really hang out for our events because they are great.
Yeah. But the cool thing there is reasons to celebrate, created a hashtag years ago called Celebrate Your Victories. But giving people reasons to celebrate. Like, you go to work, right? And look, we just did a really cool thing the other day with the team. We did a paint and sit. It was awesome.
Great idea.
I was real like, is this going to be any good? But it was awesome. And everyone loved it, right? And it's reasons to get together and celebrate.
Yeah.
And I think, because going to work can be really boring if you want to make it boring.
Yeah.
Or you can have a good time and have a good culture. And I think the cool thing there is when other agents start to come in and go, oh, it's not like that, you've won, right?
And it doesn't have to be expensive things
No.
either. Like we're doing ping pong next week
Yep.
with one of our officers. In fact, internally, a whole lot of us organised we went into karaoke the other Friday night. That was such a great stress release on a Friday. Highly recommend it.
Nice.
So it starts to filtrate into everyone, and they start organising things because they actually love being together and doing things together.
Yeah, and that's part of the culture. You know, and high performance culture, I think that's really interesting too, because it's quite a, real estate it's stressful, right?
Yes.
You're dealing with people's biggest assets and emotions. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of energy can be drawn into that. You know, there's highs and there's definitely lows. You know, especially now, market could be a wee bit tougher for a lot of people. So maybe if you're not bringing the energy, as I think Tony says, bring the fizz, put the fizz in the coke.
Fizz in the coke. Yeah,
you've got to bring that energy. If you're not bringing it, who else is going to bring the energy?
Well, you have to. And look, just today I was standing with an agent, and at that time she'd had some news around a listing that she didn't get, and she was just she was just like, this never happens to me. But we went and we sat down and I was like, right, we're going to call and we're going to find out what's happened. Do you want me to stay in the room with you? No, I'll do it. And once she actually did that, found out the whole reasoning behind it, she felt a lot better.
Yeah.
But you've got to be there because you can feel on your own.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you are an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So, but we're trying to make them feel like they're nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
They are definitely on our team.
Yeah. And that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
There's a big, big difference. That's very cool. And that does, you have to have leaders that are prepared to execute that and buy into that. Because if you don't, that can, that won't stay around, right?
No.
So that's very cool. Congratulations. That is, I love hearing things like that because I think it's such a big thing in growing people. At the end of the day, you're growing people. And if you look, I think Richard Branson said, if you look after your people, they'll look after the rest, right?
Yeah.
So you look after the people and then all of a sudden your clients are looked after. Your clients are looked after, you get more clients and it's all of it snowballs. That's real cool. Hey, so obviously, what have you seen with technology coming in? You talked about a little bit of lead generation, but obviously there's other technologies now coming into the space.
Yes.
Where do you see everything starting to land in the whole marketing space?
Well, obviously, we're using a lot of AI now in our marketing team, and it's been, I think you put this challenge to your team, and my team actually they have always they're the same. They've found another hour more in their day.
Yeah,
it's made them a lot better in their roles, especially around we are creating a huge amount of content all the time.
Yeah.
It's content. We have 2 people really managing our socials and newsletters and all that kind of thing. So with the amount of content creation, I think, it just feels a bit sharp and a bit more refined.
Yeah.
And it sort of freed them up. It used to be a little bit of a bottleneck around that. But look, we actually still use a copywriter as well. There's still a need for that.
Yeah.
Especially if we're bringing, we're writing about our people or, sometimes there's just some things that I feel like, hey, I can't do.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to see what happens. And we are, we're going through a huge transformation in the technology space at the moment as a business. We're about to go onto a huge new CRM program, Vault. And that's, this is, we've got people, we've got everything from 20-year-olds to 70-plus-year-olds working in our business. So we're going to go through this huge transformation, but it's trying to, approach it with positivity and really pull out all the great positives because there's going to be so many new features that we're going to have at our fingertips, which I can't wait to roll out.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, getting everyone to buy into technology.
Oh, yeah.
Because we could even see it at some of the events that we've done. You have different people just don't want to hear it. And then other people they're rushing into it.
Yeah.
Which I find, and look, I just think, especially with AI, and I did it in the event that I talked to you guys about, is find an hour. Use it as your assistant. And we had some great presentations here on Friday, and it was really cool to see how the team's even taken that to another level of time, to getting time back and really using it as an assistant. And I think that's the key to it. But obviously getting people to buy into technology. What are you doing there? Have you got one of the best things I've ever seen with a company? There was a electrician firm. They were actually one of the fastest growing electrician firms in Canterbury. They won one of their business awards at the Westpac just after the earthquake, and they went paperless. which was in their industry, there wouldn't be many paperless firms. And I said, how did you do that? And he championed one person to be in charge of that technology, and he then taught everyone else. So it wasn't the boss saying it.
No.
It was these champions started going out and championing how are you guys going to roll that out?
Well, we've managed to get one office paperless. We've got a great manager there he's a great adopter of technology, and he's a great champion for it. So we have got one office, but real estate there's a lot of paper.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have the little pigeonholes with the paper in it, which I hadn't ever seen before. And I was like, what is this? But you've just, look, I hadn't been in real estate before, and so you can't come in and go, we've got to get rid of this. It's actually getting a real understanding of why they need it, and I think knowing that we had this huge transformation coming, it was actually no point really touching anything until we go through that, and then I think that's when we will start to slowly, implement some of these things, and that would be, a real passion project for me.
Yeah. So you said you're excited. What are you excited about most?
I think, this platform we're going on to, Vault RE, it's the leading real estate technology in the world. So it's the ability to, I guess, for agents to communicate with clients.
Nice.
So their ability, the moment someone steps into an open home, instead of using a paper open home register, they load them straight into their database. Yep. It recognises if they're a duplicate. It sends them a link straight away with all the information on the property from their mobile number. Yep. It sends them a follow-up. It's just, it's going to streamline a lot of that and give buyers and give vendors a lot more information right at their fingertips.
Nice. Making that before, during and after experience a lot more seamless, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And giving people a better experience. Yeah, which is cool. That's awesome. Well, that's exciting because, obviously technology breakthroughs can really have a massive effect. And I think, when you get that right and people start buying in and people start seeing it, it's a cool thing. Hey, so this has been an amazing chat. We've been going nearly 45 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
I've got a couple of things I wanted to cover, and obviously mindset's a big one for me. But I'd love to hear some of the success stories that we've already talked a wee bit about it, but some of the success stories that you've seen, and obviously I love talking about mindset. So I'd love to know a wee bit more how you've developed yours and how you keep yourself. Obviously, working in real estate, how do you keep yourself up?
Yeah. Well, this is, unfortunately, I'm not like you in the gym club, and I don't get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym and have cold showers and do all these strange rituals. In fact, being in hospitality has made me incredibly nocturnal. Yep. So I do tend to do my best work late at night.
Yep. That's cool.
And I tend to be a bit notorious for staying at the office late or going home and working late. It's just what works for me, and I just think that's because of the industry that I've worked in for so long.
Yeah.
I think where I get, obviously, it's trying to make sure I look after myself, making sure that I'm always doing something each day, physically getting up and going to the gym or, walking around Hagley. That's really big. But I think I just come in, being around the likes of some of the people I work with, you just have to be up. And if we're not up, it will just bring everyone down. So, I guess I take it as a really serious role that I have to be positive, and you can't have a bad day and doing my role or doing Tony's role. You have to always be up, and
you're on stage, right?
You are on stage, and I think, look, that actually takes me to, and you asked me before about like great books I've read, and I'm a huge fan of all of the Disney books on not the Disney fairy tales, but all the Disney books on leadership, and there's so many things. If you saw my Disney books, they are literally, they've got post-it notes, they've got highlighted. I've read them over so many times. But one of the things they do at Disney is they put a mirror on every door that goes out into an area where the public is, and it has on there, you're about to go on stage. How you see yourself now is how the guests will see you. And I actually implemented that at V-Base. So again, it's like you are on stage. That's cool. That's now even like when I get out of my car and then I get on the lift and it's like, ta-da, you are on stage. And I think it's honestly just flowed through. Hey, look, sometimes you might fall off the stage. But, you are on stage and you've got to go, and it's a real Gilbert and Noka thing. You've got to treat every day like you're in it, you're training to win. Like what are we going to do today that's just a bit better? In fact, he's now got the not just train to win, train to dominate. I think that's the next phase.
That's awesome.
But
what a cool mindset to have, and what a good thing to be able to share people. Because obviously, look, success leaves clues. If it weren't for Disney, and look, people are going out there and paying big money to go to Disney, and like a little thing, look in the mirror, hey, you're on stage. And get yourself in that character.
honestly, those, is one of the biggest brands in the world. So you need to you need to listen to them. You need to read their books, and around the Disney way, and around their 10 steps for strategic leadership. So many great pearls of wisdom, no matter what field of work you're in.
Yeah. What were some of your favourites? Obviously, The Mirror.
I think their team spends so much time, their management team, out on the ground, so they actually don't really sit down to a meeting, and then the first thing they do is they go around their parks or around wherever it might be, and they speak to the team members, and they are going, and they're the ones, you imagine walking into any business right now and wandering around and saying, hey, what would be something right now that would make this experience that little bit better? The guys that are doing this job every day have the ideas. Yeah. So that's where they got all the answers. They're like, hey, look, I think we need to, our uniforms are looking a little bit old or whatever. I think we need to, little, but also just tiny little things that they take from their people, and then most importantly, they implement it. And that's why their team members are so forthcoming, because they know that they implement those. Yeah. So I think that's one of the, and it's like, using that research or using that information you get from clients and from your people, it's so valuable, and then putting it into place. That
is really valuable, going and asking the people at the coalface, because a lot of the times, I've worked in the corporate world, they'll come and ask you, but then they never do anything with the feedback. No. And I think that's probably some of the saddest things. But going and asking and then implementing is very cool. I've been reading a book at the moment, A Diary of CEO, and he mentions there was a bullet train in Japan, and no one believed that the turnaround on the training of this, or the cleaning of this train, was like 7 minutes. And they even though the train was cleaned, they really struggled for people to give them to believe it. So what they did is, these people had blue uniforms, so he then dressed them all in red uniforms, and they stood outside the train, and when people would come out of the train, they would bow, and then they would go in and clean the train. And he made it like these people were on stage. And it was amazing, like the performance of them, because they were prouder. They were in these red uniforms. Yes. They were bowing. People could see that these people were actually cleaning the train. Yes. And the review, basically the feedback. They were doing the same job, but people were giving them the feedback that the trains were cleaner. But the pride in these people, and I thought it was really, really interesting. It's just helping your people be better, but also at the same time be seen. Yes. Like they're on stage now, they're being seen, and so that personal responsibility, I thought was something very cool. Yeah. Cool. So obviously Gilbert and Oka.
Yes, we're very fortunate enough to have access to Gilbert from time to time.
Lucky enough to see a presentation that he did, and I said to Tony at the end, I might have said to you as well, do the people here understand how lucky they are to have and be involved in a business that has access to that? Because you don't just have the Gilbert and Oka, you've got a lot of different people that come in and speak that are really world class at what they do. And I think that's some of the difference that your guys at home would get access to. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, we're always, and that's that always training to win, training to dominate. Like, we're always trying to think, who can we have come in? What's going to give us that extra edge? We've got a great new agent who she's coming in on Thursday. We're flying her in from Auckland. She just won the Josh Vegan Change Agent of the Year. Young, really successful agent. We're bringing her in, and again, it'll resonate with different people to tell us about how she's got to where she has. Yeah. So we're always, obviously, we have our team internally always sharing. We do panels and training sessions, but, we're always looking at bringing external resources. So we've brought in some incredible speakers from overseas and all around New Zealand. That's awesome. And there's plenty more that we're organising at the moment.
Yeah, that's so cool. So look, obviously, let's pitch it here. If you are listening to this and you're looking at a career in real estate, you should be talking to the team at Harcourt's Homewood. Like, they are world class, and you bring in world class people, but you also have a world class culture. So I'm going to put you on the spot, because that's what I do on this podcast. Let's think about you let's think about people as a real estate agent. If you were looking to become a real estate agent right now, and like, we all know it's competitive, and we all know there's hundreds of people that have failed at real estate, and there's hundreds of people and thousands of people that have been successful. Knowing what you know now, give me 5 things that you recommend people should do.
I did have to think about this. Well, you're right. Agents are being replaced by other agents all the time. So I guess the first thing is you've got to get really quickly comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Nice.
And so I think
love that.
you're going to have to hustle, and you're going to have to ask for the business.
Yeah.
And you are going to have to let everyone you know that you're in real estate now, and you'd love their support.
Yeah.
You have to, and this is a big thing. It's amazing how many people don't ask for the business.
Yeah.
Like, did you ask?
Yeah.
So I guess that, and it can be uncomfortable, but I promise it does get easier.
Why do you think they're not prepared to ask? Is it because they just don't have the confidence in themselves?
I think it's that fear of rejection.
Rejection, It's
Yeah,
rejection. That's what it comes down
It could be that they're dealing with someone that they've known for a long time and they don't want to take it from a friendship to a business relationship. But, that network of people you have to start with is really, that's your starting point. So you have to be able to do that.
Yeah. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think, look, anyone who's successful in anything in life, they go through that period. You actually just have to sit with it. You have to, at some degree, you have to challenge yourself to be uncomfortable and be okay with it.
Because, that's where the biggest learnings are, isn't it? When you're
totally. That's awesome. That's a great start.
My next one, real estate is a contact sport.
Yep.
So get ready to pick up the phone and make lots of face-to-face.
Yep.
Don't think that you can do it from sitting behind a computer.
Yeah.
So, we talked about trying to get that nice balance if you're doing lead generation.
Yep.
But, there's no reason why you can't throw that in the mix.
Yeah.
But you are going to have to get ready to get busy picking up the phone and scheduling, lots of face-to-face meetings.
So you're picking up the phone and so face-to-face meetings, that's exactly what you're trying to get in front of people, talk to people.
You fill your week with those.
Yeah. Fill your week.
Fill your week. My next one is, how many times do you get asked, what do you do? I get, what do you do? So you've got to obviously nail your elevator pitch because I hear so many people who don't know this.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to say what you do.
Yeah.
Not I just work for Harcourts
Okay,
or
so
anything like that.
What would someone say?
I help people buy and sell real estate. For starters, because it sounds better than saying I work for Harcourts or I'm a real estate agent. But there's a lot more fizz you could put in that. And then I think it's the second part of that is you have to nail your listing presentation. If you can nail your pitch, as in why people would choose you, and then you can nail your listing presentation, you're pretty much all the way there. So that listing presentation you need to do in front of a camera, you need to do in front of your manager, in front of a mentor, in front of some people, and then and perfect it. Like do it, definitely record it. I think, that's a great tool to watch back and critique. And if you can nail that presentation, look, we've seen some people do great work with Darren Prattley in that space. Where he has got them practicing and practicing, and now they've got some of the best listing presentations out there.
And realise that, hey, to be, once again, you've got to sit being a bit uncomfortable. When I realised that feedback was good was when I was at Toastmasters, and they'd give you feedback. They'd give you what you've done well, then what you could work on, and then what you've done well again. And I really liked that. I thought it was because a lot of times in the corporate world, you just get told what you've done wrong. And there was no really positive feedback to that. And I think that's really important. But it's really important that you do work with experts in that space, and I think that's where Darren, and even your team, having a mentor is really key, right? Having someone that can, hey, what about if you just tried that or just said that, or take that out. You don't actually need that, and practice is key there. So, shoot, I'm going to be a good agent, I tell you. I'll follow these three.
Follows these three. There's two more, though.
There's two more. Let's keep going.
I think, obviously, it's just immerse yourself in all things real estate. So I get asked this all the time, so how's the property market going? Like, do you get, people just want to know. Everyone's interested, right? Because most people are in property to some degree. So you have to really know the answers. It has some stats. We had some stats up today. How like the days on market has come down from 34 to 30 based on last year. The median house prices. So knowing that data within your franchise and within the region is really valuable. So you look like you actually know what you're talking about. I think also experiencing and following other agents, experiencing their open homes. It's probably something, you can take some key things. What did they do really well? What didn't they do well?
Because you can learn a lot from other people. And also you can learn a lot from other industries as well. Like going in and being curious. That's what I say to people all the time. I think I said it at your event. Be curious. Put on a part-time marketer's hat and start to be curious about what other people are doing.
And it's when we get those, I had something, Jason Gunn, we had speak with our team earlier this year. And, the other day he sent me this electronic kind of handwritten card. and he had said, hey, I was just driving past the town hall and I was thinking about what a great, day that was with your team, and I hope everyone's well. And, it was just a really lovely message.
Yeah.
And I was like, what an awesome touch. And I sent that to a couple of agents I'm working with at the moment on a few things just around client experience. And I was like, how many times do you drive past someone and you'll see them, and how nice to follow it up with that.
Yeah.
It would have taken them like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but that's cool.
Yeah.
That's little, once again, small hinge with big door. It's that after experience, right? Mm-hmm. Before, during, and after. What's the after experience look like? Mm-hmm. One thing I really liked, and I was actually talking to these guys today about it, I love how you, with your auction results, you put the how many properties sold. I think it was 82% the other day at auction. Then
yes.
The sales, medium sales price was 908K.
Yeah.
And I thought, I actually used it when I was talking to them.
Yeah, I know. With the median sale price at Homewood.
I was using those stats,
yeah.
because they were there, and I thought that was really, really good. Made me more knowledgeable.
Yes.
And I'm not even selling real estate, but yeah. So embrace yourself or immerse yourself in everything real estate. And you guys obviously have the way to do that.
There's some great agents, and not just following ones here, obviously overseas. There's some great examples of agents and change makers in that space to follow.
Totally. Okay, number 5.
I think structure. So we've talked a bit about Gilbert and Oka, and we talk about the triangle, magic triangle. So you would have known. So obviously, skill set, like we give our team so much support around the skills and the training, like there is no shortage of training. Yeah. So, there's skill set, there's mindset, we can, keep people really positive, keep them uplifted. Yeah. And it's that other one in the corner, structure. And I see, I spend all my days in real estate offices. I can, see, success leaves clues. The people that follow a structure and are really disciplined and doing the calls and showing up, they're the ones that are doing really well. Yeah. So I think, we have the ideal week, and I say to people, if you just follow this ideal week, I promise you will be successful. Yeah. Yeah. But it's that implementation piece, right? Yeah. And so, but if they're blocking out and being ruthless with their time that they've got scheduled for prospecting and for face-to-faces, and just not going, I don't want to do that today, I might do that, and then sometimes when you can't bother going to the gym, you have to be so set on that structure.
I think, when I saw Gilbert talk about that and I was like, and he asked the question, is it skill set, is it mindset, or is it structure? And everyone kind of said mindset.
I
know. And it was natural, and I thought about that. And when he said structure, and then he explained how when a halfback who was getting angry on the field and was getting trouble with the referee, and he gave him this, because he had the skill set, he had the mindset to be there, but then he gave him the structure to handle that, and I thought, wow. Mm-hmm. And then he said something really key, and I think you've kind of just said it as well, but he said, make discipline your superpower.
Yes.
And I thought that was brilliant. Make discipline your superpower, because, if you've got a structure and the structure is there, and the structure is you do 10 phone calls, and then the structure is you do 10 presentations, and then the structure is, and I just thought you've got to have a discipline to do that, right? So make discipline your superpower.
If you do that, you will, success will come. Yeah. We've seen it, we've got, we see it with people that are doing it. So it's probably the best.
Yeah. That is very cool. So number 1 was get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Just live in rejection for a while.
Yes.
And realise if you do the work, you get through it. Real estate is a contact sport, and I think that could put a lot of people off. But, at the end of the day, that's once again being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you can, because the interesting thing there, and I know this from doing presentations, it's scary at the start.
Oh, yeah.
But then it just becomes something that you do.
Yeah.
And it just becomes natural, and I think so. Yeah, just getting used to that. Number 3 was obviously getting good at what you do. Helping people,
nailing your
presentation, nailing what you do. Getting really clear on that, and that's so cool. That's like if you could just get that thing, that what you do. I work for Harcourts. Actually, what is it that you do?
Yeah.
And learning to be a good presenter, immersing yourself in real estate. Well, that's you've got all the tools to help you do that.
Become that knowledge force.
Having a structure. What a gift if you're watching this and you're looking to get in real estate. You need to contact the team here. You need to get in touch with Janelle, because this is the team that you want to work for. This is where the magic's going to happen. Because I think if someone actually really wants to succeed in this industry, you have to work with successful people.
Yes.
I think that's the difference. Like someone who can take you through those 5 things and actually help you succeed with that, and actually care enough to actually get you through those tough periods is a big part of that success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Hey Janelle, this has been a fantastic chat. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned actually quite a lot. And look, I think we talked about a number of different things. My biggest takeaway here, though, is that experience. Get good at creating experiences for people, whether they're an internal team or external team.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you've done really, really well. So thank you for coming on. Is there anything you just want to leave with before?
I think I've talked a lot.
No, you have. And look, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You've just come from a lunch where you're doing with your team and training and that sort of stuff, and that's really important. And I really appreciate your time. I learned a lot, and congratulations on. I didn't know that you did a degree in it later on, while you still had a child and stuff like that. And I think that's
There's still time for you.
Yes, that's not going to happen. But anyway, but I think it's awesome that you've done that, and also that you've taken like what you've learned. And I think this is why I loved our chat and why I love talking to you. You don't just there's a lot of marketing people I talk to. They have these ideas, but they never implement them. And you're a real implementer, and I think that's the skill that you've also. And I talked about you bring that whole experience, but you actually know how to implement that, and I think that's really, really cool. So appreciate you being on the Marketing for Business podcast. This is going to be a great episode. So once again, thank you for being here. For everyone listening, please share this episode. Share it with someone. Share it with someone that needs a bit of a hand right now, whatever type of business they're in. Share it with them, because it could be the thing that actually helps them get to that next level, especially if they've been in a rut. There's some great tools Janelle's just shared with you to actually get you out of that fog and get you going into that next level of success. So appreciate your time. Thanks for being there. And until next time, have a great day.